Right. I need to make sure that we're actually going live to Twitch. We should be good on YouTube, but I'm a touch concerned that we won't be live on Twitch. We are live on Twitch. Nice. Cool. Hello. How's everybody doing? How's things? How's life, universe? How has your week been? Hello to Simon. Hello to Essentialist. How are you guys doing? How's things? Hello, Budget Bench. How you doing, man? How's things? Ba 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 ba. Where am I at? I think that's that. That will do. Cool. Wonderful. I think we're sorted then. Awesome. Hello. How's everybody doing? How's things? How's life, the universe, and everything? How has your week been? Ba, 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 ba. May as well keep that one up. All right. That one. That one. That one. Where am I at? Ba, 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 ba. There. There we go. Hello, Yanazik. How you doing, man? How's things? And do you know what? I didn't make a question poll this week, so I'm going to ba 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 ba. There you go. You can hit me with a question. Hello Horizon Zero Gamer, hello Swapna. How you guys doing? Your reviews and other videos are crazy good. Well, thank you very much, and I'm sorry that you deleted your comment almost immediately. Had a split radiator in my car, so not the thermostat or fans. Nice. I'm not. Well, I'm kind of surprised. What you said? I remember. I don't remember what car you said, but it's Mitsubishi something, right? Yes, I think that's right. Anyway, fair play. I take it you're getting that sorted then. Hello, Stavania. How you doing, man? Those things. Hello, Ish. Hello, Murcielago, Murcielago JDM. Is that right? Am I reading that right? Kind of looks like it. Anyway, what happened to Point of View Company? I'm not sure I know what you mean. Can you clarify your question? There we go. What's your opinion on the RX 6600? There was a leak, right? Hold on. I should know this, but I've had my head buried in the sand. Oh no, it's out. Wait, no, it's a leak. Okay. Let's see what the leak suggests. It is around 3060 performance. Right. So in that case, as long as it's based on 3060 money, that doesn't seem like the worst thing in the world. With the main point of comparison being realistically price tag. If the price tag's low enough, then seems pretty decent. Otherwise, it's going to be well, overpriced and not worth it. So depends on price. Sorted last Friday for $550 Australian dollars. That does sound like quite a lot, actually. I I would hazard a guess that if I were to replace the radiator in my car, which, you know, it's me, I would do it myself, um, with great pain. I would imagine that that would be 100, 150 for the part, and then, you know, 20 quid for probably 10 litres of, what is it, G12 plus or G13 coolant, whatever mine takes. Some of that. But I suppose Australian dollar plus mechanic doing it for you, I could see that adding up, which makes sense. Hello Ish, if I didn't already say that. How you doing? How's things? I know that Chris is off in Slovakia at the moment, I think, if I remember rightly. So I'm not entirely sure if he'll be joining us tonight, but you know, we'll see. What's I gonna say? What have I been doing this week that I probably... Oh yeah, have you watched the Nanoleaf video? If so, what do you think? 240 for the radiator, 65 for the thermostat, 35 for the coolant, 190 for labor. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty reasonable. Pretty reasonable. All okay in the end? All okay this end. Nice. How are you? I like the triangles in the back, even if the review was less than positive. Yeah, so, one, I'm fine. Busy, but you know, what's new? Also, just to clarify for anyone, you know, regular viewer, it's money season in the tech world. So there's a good chance that while I've had a few sponsor videos, that may continue into October and November. And by May, I mean almost definitely. Yeah, things are getting busy. Fun times. As for the review of those, correct. They're strange because you might just about be able to see them. They're ever so slightly flickering, and I think they're on fairly high brightness at the moment, which does tend to help with them not flickering. But it's the fact that these are you know meant to be sort of streamer lights, and yet they flicker on camera. I just what? Like, that is so strange to me that that's something that they haven't apparently thought of, they haven't tested, they haven't verified. And it's something that happened with every camera that I pointed at them, just to clarify. It's not, you know, like one specific camera or whatever, it's all of them. And it's something that they're so expensive for you know what is, as you may or may not have seen in the video, 3 LEDs in a case. It's nice, but yeah. And then the fact that the Essentials light strip that they have, that is also a like flickery mess, at least sometimes. I'm just really surprised and confused because again, that's also really expensive. Hands off your face. Or what? The computer hardware company point of view that released graphics cards of Nvidia like EVGA, MSI, and Zotac do. No, I haven't heard of them. I mean, there are a collection of more like regional and esoteric brands, ones that have sort of what do you call it, slipped by the wayside over the years. Galaxy or Galax, Inno 3D. Power Color is more regional than anything. ASRock make graphics cards now. Palette, but I can't say that I've heard of Point of View as a graphics card maker. Nice, fine is pretty good. Going with the litany of ailments. Well, yeah, yeah, like I'm keeping busy. That's for sure. So yeah, yeah. They feel over-engineered in design, but skimped out in the software and electronics themselves. Yes, that's the weird thing. Like they're when you get the packaging is rather nice, fairly high quality. The actual panels themselves feel nice and high quality, but then you go to stick them on the wall and you can't move them at all once you're done. Like they just stick and that's it. There's no rails. There's no fine adjustment of position. It's you stick it. You can rotate it around, but that's it. If you want to take it off, you need to basically rip the panel off of its backing plate and then rip the tape or the foam tape out from the plate, and then you can put a new bit of tape on and reposition it and hope that you haven't damaged your wall in any way while doing so. And yeah, and then the fact that it's 3 LEDs, like it's one at the top, one at the corner, well, one in each corner basically, shining down into the center essentially, and there's a big diffusion layer, which is a very similar thing to what Elgato does with the ring light. The ring that you can see, the actual LEDs themselves, if I remember rightly, are only in the inner ring essentially. They're on the outside and they face effectively outwards, and then there is reflection and diffusion all around the whole thing so that it comes across as a full beam of light rather than direct LEDs shining, and that's what those do. It's the same sort of thing, but yeah, it's strange. They are no, they're not addressable per LED. It's a color per panel. So yeah. I can get 3 times the lighting setup I have now for the price of an Annalise starter kit. Yeah. 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 The RTX 490 TDP is meant to be 450 watts. What is too much power? Well, that really. So what would that be? That would be the 75 watts in the PCI slot, another 150 from an 8-pin, another 150 from an 8-pin, which gets you to 375. So you need another 6-pin. So 3 8-pins basically on a card. I've seen Matter. I mean, there was 2 GPUs on those mad cards, but it's fine. Yeah, that's kind of a lot. Yeah, hence new NVIDIA 12-pin. Well, what's the max of the 12-pin? Is it 400 or 600 or 300 or I don't remember. But please don't tell me that it's going to need 2 12-pins. I mean, I can see it needing it. I can do 500 watts. Right, got you. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it'll be a single 12-pin then. Close, but single 12-pin. And yeah, it'll be a dongle with 3 8-pin connectors. Palette, Inno 3D, GameWord, PNY, same thing. True. And generally not available here in the UK. My Intel 9100F CPU contacts are stabbed by socket pins. I use a stock cooler. My PC reboots randomly. Sometimes it reaches desktop, works fine. It just keeps cycling on and off. So your point about my CPU contacts are stabbed by socket pins. What do you mean? Because a 9100F is a what, an 1150, 1151, whatever it is, chip that it's an LGA or land grid array chip, which means that there are pins in the socket that rest up against the the pads on your CPU. Like that's how it's meant to be. So I'm a little confused. What you mean? Hello, Michael. Sorry I didn't say hello earlier, but how you doing, man? How's things? Also, hello, Wapted. Again, I meant to say hello, but I was probably explaining something else. Chademo connector on future GPUs. Well, Chademo's got to be used for something. But no, CCS is probs better. I like CCS because it's multi-use, because CCS is Type 2 with a couple pins on the bottom for DC, so yeah. The New World menu is the new max power draw test. I actually haven't played that. In fact, I haven't played a video game that's not 2048, or that I've been required to play to benchmark for God, like 5 months, maybe more. Yeah. So I have no experience. Yeah. Next gen boards may have higher PCIe socket power spec. That'd be interesting. I wonder if that would correlate with ATX 12VO. Because that might make sense. But I'll be interested to see what it comes out to, and also what ends up using it, because it would be my assumption that existing hardware wouldn't just be able to suddenly draw an extra, I don't know, 25, 50 watts, whatever, from the PCIe socket automatically. Could be wrong though, but that would be my assumption. People really think that a 350 watt TDP for a 3090 is a lot, but they forget that the HD 8990 used to take up 375. That's true. And the R9 295, 285, 295, 295, 295X2. That was probably in that ballpark as well, because I'm fairly certain that the standard R9 290X took a good 200 plus watts, so I would assume that's 400 plus watts. Again, I know it's 2 GPUs on one graphics card, but at the same time, it's still one graphics card. Or a redesign of the 8-pin CPU Power X2 sockets. Interesting. Again, that would be interesting to see from a compatibility standpoint. And also, that's not necessarily the best sign if Intel are planning on redesigning the 8-pin EPS power connector for these new boards. Also, hi Chris, and bye Chris. I'll catch you later. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think I was sadly just told that some DDR5 that I thought was coming may not turn up in time, so I might need to go hunting, which might be difficult. The 295X2 is 500 watt TDP, ouch, and also my brain is full of too many useless hardware specs. Lol. I can relate. I'm sure that I can tell you far too much about far too many monitors for any one man to reasonably know or talk about. I'm sure that, let's face it, Tim from Hardware Unboxed has nothing on me, but still, it's a problem. Actually, speaking of monitors, I have been religiously working on my response time module, which does indeed have an LED inside of it. Technically, it's an RGB LED. Technically, it's a NeoPixel RGB LED, although I don't really use it for much. But yeah. It actually almost sort of is. I'm not going to say done because that would, one, let's face it, jinx it, and two, it's not. But it's actually really close, and I'm really excited. Yeah. In fact, would you be interested in seeing a bit about the heinous amount of code that I've written both for the board and for the launcher? Because I think I can give you a sneak peek. Do you know if there's a big difference between a real and a clone Arduino? As far as I'm aware, no. Not a significant difference. The main thing would generally be, I would assume, some level of reliability, or sort of guaranteed compatibility. WAP. So this is, where is it? Which finger am I using? Open source response time tool. So this is a thing that I made that is built with as much off-the-shelf hardware as I can use. I have designed custom PCBs for it, which are in this bag. So there you go. So basically, it's an Adafruit what's it? Itsy Bitsy M4 Express, which is a ARM Arduino compatible board. It uses an MLX 75305 as a light to voltage sensor, and it has basically just the required components to make that happen, as well as a voltage protection circuit that I made out of a single potentiometer and a single PNP transistor, which I'm really pleased about, and also a digital potentiometer, which means that I can vary depending on the monitor's brightness. I can I only need a window of the sensor's output, so I can move that window up and down based on the monitor's brightness to effectively get the maximum range possible at all times, within a given brightness range, obviously. So yeah, it's something that I'm making open source. It's something that I'm probably going to be, well, I definitely am going to be building kits, because I can guarantee you that most people won't want to, build one of these themselves. Most won't have soldering irons and multimeters and just the time and effort to build a thing. But yeah, I designed a 3D printed case that I print on my Elegoo Mars resin print, which makes it really nice. And yeah, that's that. I've been writing the software for it, which I will show you now. There we go. So The launcher, the program that connects to the board and that does all of the processing of the data is C Sharp. One, because that's what I know how to do, and two, because it's relatively quick and easy to implement. There's a load of different packages and things available, and you can also implement C level features without necessarily needing to do everything, in C, which is quite handy. So a brief tour. The main window currently looks hideous. So effectively, it looks like this when you launch it. So it connects to the hardware, and will also find your monitor. So it will list out all of the monitors that you have attached. In fact, I can just run it and you can see. So it will find all the monitors you have attached and list out the names of them, so that when it saves a results folder and file, it will save the monitor that you've selected as the name of the folder and as the name of the final file. Like I said, connects to the device. You can average your test, so you can run the test a number of times. If you've got enough time to do it, the best results, obviously, the more times you can let it run, the better data you'll get. So it goes up to 10 at the moment. It wouldn't be the end of the world to make that higher, but for now, 10 is where it's at. It also you can also set a frame rate limit, which currently isn't working. That's one of the things that I need to fix. But yeah, that's that. And then when you go to the calibrate brightness page, it's basically just a white box. But when you hold this up to the screen, you can see that it gives you a raw result. It's a 16-bit value, so the maximum is 65,520, give or take a little bit. But if I put this on the monitor with the correct brightness, it's just slightly too high and or perfect. So that's what I'm kind of going for. Yeah, and then if you want to analyze your results, you can import either a single file or import a full folder full of results, and it will automatically average all of that for you, which is quite handy. Yeah, I think that's that at the moment. In theory, the hardware would be capable of doing input lag testing as well. It's not something that I've written in or thought too hard about, but it's something that should be able to be added relatively easily. Oh, that's the other thing. So I, as part of connecting to the board, I make use of the Arduino command line. So a command line interface, Arduino CLI. So the program will automatically install both the Arduino CLI and all of the required libraries and board managers to support this board. And then once it's done that, what that means is that I can actually issue firmware updates for the board remotely through the GitHub releases. So whenever you download a new version of this launcher, it can also download a new version of the board firmware that might fix a bug or introduce new features, whatever else. And I've written it so that the program itself can update the board's UI without you ever having to touch anything. You just say, it comes up with a message box saying there's a new firmware version available for the board. Do you want to update? And if you say yes, it goes and does it on its own. So good. So I'm really pleased about that. And yeah, that's it for the moment. Like I said, that's the thing. As for the analyzing results, I'll see if I can I have a lot of test results. Where am I at? So to give you an example, so this is the final file that I would output. So you have the start RGB value, the end RGB value, the response time, and overshoot in a gamma corrected, I suppose gamma corrected, but RGB corrected value. So instead of saying the light level was X% higher than it should have been, I say it got to RGB, say, 230 when it should have been at RGB 204, and so 230 to 204 percentage increase. That's your overshoot percentage instead of light output, which is more accurate, more relevant essentially. So that's what a final file looks like, but this is when it's averaged all the results. In fact, if I open one, I'm sure that I can find a raw data file somewhere. That one. So this is all of the raw data. Each of these raw data files is 110 rows of about 6,500 samples, give or take. It's quite a lot. But what that means is that the accuracy of this data ends up being, or the resolution of the capture is 7.795 microseconds, which is pretty sweet, because that's less than 0.01 milliseconds. So that's not bad. And then this is what the raw data would look like. So this has a touch of overshoot in it, but make that nice and big. So you can see the change starts happening somewhere around here. It overshoots slightly and then comes back down to the final level. So for this run, for RGB to 0 to RGB 26, to get our final response time for this, this monitor, this run, whatever, you would take what point is probably about there, give or take. So point 1054 minus the position down at the bottom, which is probably going to be 500 or something, 564. So you subtract those two, times it by the number of times, the time per sample, which in our case is 7.795 microseconds, and that's your response time, basically. And you can see for some of the other results, I fix that, over one. There we go. So for a different result, I don't know what RGB value that equates to. 51 to 128. There you go. You can see there's a much bigger difference in the light output value. But so the code that I wrote to process this data, I'm quite surprised that it works, but basically I searched through from one end, from the front, to find where the data starts spiking up, and I pick that point. And then I search from the back end, looking for when it goes down, which in this case would be about there, and pick that point, and then you can take those two, subtract them, get your response time, and all that jazz. So yeah, that's that. And that's the program. The code on the board is also long. There's about 2,000 lines of C#, and there's probably another 1,000 here, maybe a bit less. But the main thing is setting up the analog to digital converter took a long time. Setting up the clocks was fun, and then setting up actually both analog to digital converters, because I'm using both are on board this SAMD chip, and that was difficult. But it's set up so that it takes about 129,000 samples per second. Ideally it would be higher, but 129,000 at 16-bit resolution is not bad, and works fairly well. And yeah, and then I just have a sort of menu system for read the serial bus, check if an input is the first character is a certain value. If it is, do something. Otherwise, do something else or wait for the timeout to kick in. Loop around again. So yeah, that's that. The test itself is fixed at the moment. It will always cycle through this array at the moment. It would be nice to change that around, but we'll see. And also at the moment, it is 50 milliseconds worth of results, which is only fixed because the buffer that I save all the values into is currently 7,000 samples, or 7,000 bytes, 16-bit bytes long. I think I could do up to about 40,000, which means I could do up to 200 or 300 milliseconds. So it's perfectly possible, but I'll see. So yeah, I think that's that. And yeah, that's the tool. I'm using a few C functions, including this one, which is going to be for capturing the what window is focused, what window you're clicked on, to make sure that when the test starts running from the board, it actually runs the Unreal Engine 4 project, the Unreal Engine 4 game that shows up, that actually works and will run. So, or that you can input to it. Where is it? That's about there. So this is the code that does the processing the data. So the first bit I do is create a gamma table, which is taking light levels. So if you remember that, basically it's taking this final value, taking an average of this, and saying, well, this value, this light level equates to whatever RGB. I think this was like 120 or something, wasn't it? 128. So we know that this light level, which is what, 34,000 something, equates to RGB 128. You do that for all of the different RGB values that I capture for. Save that to a table or a list. But then even better is I then interpolate the data between those points. So I take the start and the end, divide the difference between, the start and end points, and then fill in new points in the middle, which is useful for that overshoot corrected value. And then, yeah, that creates a full gamma table from RGB 0 all the way to RGB 255 with every single step in between. It's technically not as accurate as it could be, let's say, because it's not interpolating the curve, it's interpolating straight point to point, which isn't absolutely perfect, but I can work on that later. And so yeah, it does that, and then it processes the actual data itself. I run a new moving average function, which takes the data from being it's not a noisy mess, but it's not absolutely perfectly clean. The trouble is I do have smoothing capacitors that do help, but the higher capacitance you use, the more it actually slows the signal down, like it slows that transition down in terms of how long it takes for that to actually come through to the controller. And so that needs to be, I chose accuracy or like more, I suppose, real time versus less noise. And so this moving average function works really well. I think it's 10 samples, build a buffer of them, and then use those 10 samples effectively as a weight for the next one to either pull it up or bring it down so that it's a more consistent line. And it's fantastic. It doesn't affect the accuracy of the data, but it is much easier to then process that data because it's not jumping up and down like a madman. And then build a start, minimum, maximum to compare against, which is again useful for that noisy data. And then search through. It's kind of, I would call it janky, but it does work pretty effectively, which is effectively looking at like samples. If the current sample is higher than the maximum that we've already calculated, then also check that 50 samples down the line and then another, 75 samples, 100, 125, 150, they're all going up, which helps detect any false positives. And if all of that is true, then set that as the start point. Do the same for the end, which also includes overshoot and undershoot. And then calculate the overshoot percentage, and then save it all out. And I also save every single stage of this processing. So I save a raw data file that you can go and check if you want to, verify any measurements. And then I also save the gamma table and the processed data for each run. And then I also average all of that data, which also excludes any outlier results. And yeah, that's that, really. Yeah, I think that's that. I should probably make it clear, I'm not a professional developer, so I have definitely not followed best practices for much of any of this. I have put try-catch statements around pretty much everything. And I actually am going to be breaking out the functions into probably other files to make them easier to deal with, update, all that sort of stuff. But all of that will then also be put in a try-catch just in case. So yeah. Hopefully it's okay. I'm trying to. I've fixed as many outliers and edge cases as I can, and yeah, there's only a few more things left before I'm willing to send it to Simon from TFT Central. And actually, I do have 2 units, both of which are now otherwise identical. So I'll be sending him one of them, keeping the other. And yeah, I have a third one worth of components already here, so I'll build that up probably after the video explaining all of this in hopefully less words and less time. And then yeah, I'll be making kits available. It's also all open source. There'll be circuit diagrams, the PCB files, the STL files for the case, the C# launcher, both as something you can go and download pre-built, but also the full source code for everything, and the source code for the Arduino C files, essentially. So yeah. Oh, I think this is the closest I've had it to being comfortable with it being somewhat done. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to actually have it out and, in use and in the world. I actually used it for a video today on a laptop that's now upstairs. So I'm excited to see the workflow from that. I've been kind of ignoring comments. Hello. Hello, Joe. How you doing, man? How's things? What programming language do you use? So in this, it's C# and C, or Arduino C. but I also run locally links, which means I use JavaScript and TypeScript. Same thing, but slightly different. So those would be the main four that I use on a regular basis. Yeah. Do you think the Asus ZenBook Pro Geo UX582 is good for music production? I'm talking rendering, mixing, mastering, orchestral samples. So the what do you call it? I can't remember. I've got one upstairs, ironically, but I can't remember what CPU is in the UX582. Is it Ryzen or is it Intel? I honestly cannot remember. CPU manufacturer Intel. I don't remember. Did you say the Pro? Yes, the Pro. I assume that's the 15-inch. Intel or AMD? Nice. But the 582 specifically is Intel. Right. 11th gen Intel. Okay. Which one? 11800, 11900H. Got you. Right. So it's not bad. The catch is that every 11 series Intel chip that I've checked out so far have all had one problem, which is that they put out so much heat that the fans do not shut up at all. It is more than any other laptop I've had a jet turbine. So it's if music production in terms of you're going to be in the same room as the music, rather than in a sound booth where you're going to be isolated from the music, I would suggest more towards the Ryzen chips, just because of that fan noise. Although saying that, also the Ryzen ones are very similar in terms of power or horsepower, but are going to be very a good bit more efficient while doing so. So that's you have a bit better battery life, for example. So yeah, but in terms of the use case for it, I cannot claim to be an expert in music production. No. So I can't say for 100% sure, but I do know that from any level of content creation perspective, that second screen is really, really useful. I could very easily imagine you having your main audio, capture, editor, etc. on your main screen, but then having things like mixers or control surfaces, or even just things like having like your Windows Explorer for bringing files in, or device manager, whatever else, any control windows for managing what devices are connected or what sources are live or not. Having that available, and especially that being touchscreen for the secondary display, is very, very nice, and so I do have a persuasion towards recommending it. What's the purpose of monitor analysis? And also, a bunch of numbers isn't going to tell you how good a monitor is. Have you heard of benchmarking? Because that's kind of what benchmarking is. Yeah. It turns out that collections of numbers are called data, and data helps you prove points. Like, is a monitor any good? Well, what makes a monitor good? Well, how fast does it change its pixels? Is that going to be a problem in games? Is it going to be too slow? Well, it wouldn't be really good if we had a way to measure how long it takes, and then you could compare, say, how long one monitor takes to another, and oh wait, that's what my thing does, right? Yeah. So yes, that's the point. The point is to measure how quick the pixels respond. and be able to have a quantifiable measurement for how fast and therefore how good a monitor is compared to another one, which then means you can have a more detailed discussion about things like how that translates into the gaming experience, but also things like the what you call it, value proposition of, is this, you know, this one is cheaper but it's a slower panel, but that doesn't end up affecting your gaming experience too much, versus this other one that's a lot more expensive, it's faster, but if it doesn't affect your experience as much, then that, you know, that doesn't matter as much, right? So again, it's useful to have. And the reason that I'm making this thing is that there isn't, as far as I can find, a commercially available and or accessible option to do this available right now, and so that's why I'm making it open source. I'm not intending on probably even breaking even, especially if I were to factor in any level of you know, money for my time. But yeah, I care more about the more people being able to test things properly than I do about raking in. Careful using convert.in32. I don't remember doing that. I mean, it's very possible that I did, but oh, I did. Why did I do that? I normally just use int32.parse. I suppose that's for string, but I'll have a look. What's the problem with that, or using it? Don't want to interrupt, just throwing in there because I'm curious. How do you protect your data from ransomware? Not the important one, but the bulk data, like an external hard drive. So I suppose the general answer is more preventative than protection, I suppose. It's very difficult to, which is kind of the problem. Having multiple backups is or multiple backup locations is definitely important and a good benefit, which is kind of where a lot of cloud providers like having what you call it, come on brain, someone like Backblaze with their personal backup, the like $60 a year or something, and it's unlimited storage. Having something like that is a very useful feature or tool available. Might see if they've got a Backblaze thing for backing up on Unraid. I feel like that might be cheating. I'm not sure they'd be happy about me uploading 40 terabytes of footage, but if I can make it happen, I will. Camera comes tomorrow. At last. Got stuck in customs, wasn't happy. I can imagine. I've had that happen. Massive pain. But glad that it's on its way. And again, feel free to pop back next week when it's here and you want to ask any questions. If you've thought of any more, also feel free to ask them. If it's doing any rounds to the nearest even. I don't think it is. I think it's converting. Yeah, it's converting whole numbers. So there is no rounding. It is effectively an integer, but I'm converting a point f into an int, I think. Which looks about right. Yeah. What was your earlier? I assume you had an earlier question. Because how much does shock resistance matter for an SSD? E.g., the WD SN850 has a much lower shock resistance compared to the 980 Pro, in a situation where you put it in an external enclosure and move it around in a bag. So I don't know if you've had any answers already in the chat. I see Ish answering one, but the long story short is that especially compared to a hard drive, the answer is it doesn't really matter. Solid state drives are, well, solid state. There are no moving parts, so realistically, the biggest consideration in terms of shock factor is the mechanical bond of the components and the solder, effectively, which is why that is the fact that the components themselves are so small and lightweight, it's really not a big problem. It's I would call it very unlikely that shock would be the cause of a drive failure. You know, compared to something else, even just age, deterioration, controller wear, etc. Because I guess for comparison, I mean, your phone has effectively an SSD inside it, right? Like that's what its storage is. It's NAND flash, just like one of those drives. And this is obviously rated to be rattling around your pocket plenty. And the biggest concern for this isn't that the storage is going to fail, it's that, you know, you're going to crack a screen or the battery's going to wear out or something else, rather than the SoC or the storage or the RAM, the physical connection, and they're, you know, wearing out. So yeah. Any news on Nvidia's GPU lineup? No, my assumption would be we're probably going to get a super launch before we get a next generation launch, and I still don't think that's going to be right this second. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'd be kind of surprised if they did, just because stock of their existing cards already still doesn't quite exist yet. So feels a bit weird to be launching a new thing when you're still instantly selling out of your existing thing, right? Can someone tell me what the millisecond readout next to D3 D9 in RivaTuner stats? So the answer is that is your frame times, I would assume. Frames per second is an averaged measurement. It's how many frames in a second, and while you can calculate how many frames per second based on a frame time, the true measurement there is how long each of those frames took to draw. And it's actually a more relevant measurement as well, because frames per second, because of that averaging effect, well, what you're looking at there is, you know, an average of how many frames were drawn in that second or in that minute, if you're averaging it that much. But with a frame time, if you capture every single frame and or capture how long every single frame took, you might actually find that one frame takes, I don't know, say 10 milliseconds, then one frame takes 20, and then one frame takes 10, and then one frame takes 20 and 10 and 20 and 10. That's going to be an awful experience for you, because a new frame is going to, you know, be drawn at every 16.667 milliseconds if it's a 60 hertz display, or every 6.9 milliseconds if it's a 144 hertz display, and then that's gonna, you know, draw a frame and then double play the same frame and then draw the next one, which isn't going to be a good experience for you. But the average FPS will still read out as 60, or actually if it's 10 milliseconds, it's probably going to be slightly higher than 60. It's going to be like 65 or 70 FPS, despite your experience being terrible. So that's why seeing the frame times can also be a useful measurement. And D3, D9 is DirectX 9. That's the what do you call it? Display API, not display, but the API that the game is using to communicate between, game files and the graphics driver, essentially. Which is quite old. There are still a whole lot of games that use it, but DirectX 12 is the most current. Not really a question about the camera as such, but is it worth looking into setting up the GH5 in a small rig setup? It's mostly only going to be used in the workshop, so not sure. Unless you have a specific use case for what you're going to attach to that small rig cage, I would say personally no. I don't have one. I don't think I've ever really felt the need for one. I think if I had a load of attachments, that'd be a different question, but I don't. I actually only have one lens to use with it, and it works, fine. So, yeah, that's that. Rhombus Gans, no worries, man. I'm glad you like my rambling. Michael, is a Pentium 3 a good CPU for gaming in 2022? And good with an RTX 3090 Super DDR5 256GB of RAM? Do you know, I think it must be, because Pentium 3 is higher... I can't even lie. Do you know what? If you can make a Pentium 3 work with the 3090 and have 256GB of RAM, do you know, you're a better man than me, right? So yeah, no. Oh dear. Did I miss anything? Steve? Yeah, that's fair. I would potentially question why you're looking at WDS N850s and Samsung 980 Pros, because unless you're using Thunderbolt 4, and even then that's still not as fast, you're not gonna get the benefit of that, I don't think, because I want to say PCIe Gen 3 by 4 is 32 gigabits per second. Thunderbolt 4 is 40 gigabits per second, or Thunderbolt 3, same thing. Yeah, your PCIe Gen 4 is exactly double the bandwidth of PCIe Gen 3, so I assume that means 64 gigabits per second. So you're not going to get the benefit of that that speed. So unless you're buying it with the express use case of then taking it out of that enclosure later and putting it in a PCIe Gen 4 compliant system, I would probably save your money and get a Gen 3 drive instead. The Sabrent Rocket line is pretty cheap and great performance, and would definitely max out your especially any USB bus for sure. Yeah, that's it for our usual hour. So I'll leave you guys in peace. Thank you very much for watching and for listening to my rambling about well, everything, but also code. And yeah, the usual stuff is in the description if you want to check it out. Also, hello yet another user. Sorry I didn't say hello. I meant to, but yeah, how you doing, man? Far Cry 6 has a 40 gig texture pack that requires more than 11 gig of VRAM. Damn, son. I don't know who that's for. 3090 owners? Quadro owners? Anyway, yeah, thank you very much for watching. Links in the description. You can buy an At The Wheel t-shirt or hoodie like this if you want, or TechteamGB ones. And yeah, stay tuned for a metric butt ton of videos. Catch you guys next week. Bye.